All right, Alexander, we have finished the first day of the, lack of a better word, the impeachment trial of U.S. President Trump. Of course, he's not president anymore, so I don't understand how or why they're impeaching him. And you have the person presiding over these impeachment hearings being a partisan, loony Democrat, not the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. But hey, I guess this is the U.S. Congress in 2021. But okay, we had the first day. The Democrats played a lot of slick, very edited videos. I mean, this is real Hollywood production stuff. And the Republican Trump's lawyers were kind of blah. I mean, they really weren't at all good. Maybe that guy Schoen was better. He was better than Castor. Castor was just abysmal. And at the end of the day, they managed to flip one vote. So it was 5 Republicans that were saying, let's go ahead with this impeachment, that it's constitutional. They managed to flip one more person. Of course, they have to get to 17. It's still a very, very tall task. But I mean, if Trump's lawyers continue on this route, who knows what can happen. But there's just not much interest there anywhere. The ratings, no one is really interested in this because I think people see this for the sham that it is.
Why should they be interested in something that is so completely, obviously and entirely a sham? I mean, there is no substance to this because, as you absolutely rightly say, Donald Trump is not president of the United States. So why is he being impeached at all? How does this affect people in their everyday lives? How does this concern them as the economic pressures mount, as they still face all the many problems of the lockdowns and of the pandemic and all of that? How does this concern them in any way? We have a crisis of violent crime in the United States. There's been a major spike in murders. Those are the sort of things that people, I think, are interested and concerned about. If you talk to them about those things, obviously they will be interested. But to impeach someone who isn't even in office for something that other people did, a month ago, I mean, it's just completely boring to them. Now, turning to the events on this first day, I'm going to make a few quick observations. Firstly, I have attended many, many trials in my life. I'm not going to try and guess how many, but it must be, scores. And this was like no trial I have ever seen. At least the first impeachment of Trump followed some of the if you like, the procedure or the timelines or the appearance of a trial, absurd though the charge in that case was. But this one, the first day of this one, was bizarre. First of all, this was supposed to be a legal argument. There were supposed to be legal arguments about whether this trial is even constitutional. Well, I've made my views about that completely clear. I don't think there's any doubt that it is unconstitutional. But all right, you want to argue about that, argue about it. But there were no arguments. What we got instead was a Hollywood movie about the events on the 6th of January, which is, to be absolutely clear about this, evidence of nothing. People are not convicted or should not be convicted on the basis of movies, especially very edited movies like as you described it. And by the way, Andrew McCarthy, important lawyer, prominent lawyer, former federal prosecutor, person who used to work at the Southern District of New York, somebody who thinks Donald Trump should be impeached. He also says this film is completely irrelevant. In fact, it's totally irrelevant. It's actually, as a performance, a manipulative one. And we even get, I think his name is Raskin or Rankin, he starts crying at one point. I mean, again, very weird behavior from somebody who's supposed to be a prosecutor. And the defence have no idea what they're talking about. I mean, you're quite right. Schön was better, and as the thing went on, he began to get more into his stride, and he began to make some arguments and some points cogently and clearly. But before then, we had long stream of, frankly, irrelevance from the defence lawyers, which made them look to me as if they were totally out of their depth and incredibly unprepared, and had not really worked out their arguments at all clearly. And apparently they switched places at the last moment, which I find very weird. I mean, why, Schön was supposed to be the person who was going to open, and instead he didn't. And Castor was brought in, and he wasn't even very good. So, I mean, I don't understand that at all. And you're absolutely right in saying that only one senator flipped. But if this dreadful performance from Donald Trump's lawyers continues, well, I can unfortunately see how that might start to peel away support for him amongst Republicans. I hope that doesn't happen because, as I said, I consider this whole thing wrong and unconstitutional at many levels. But I've seen good cases lost and thrown away because the lawyers aren't up to their job. And I'm afraid that was part of what I saw yesterday. So a grossly manipulative presentation by the Democrats with films that really don't mean anything and are not evidence or not true evidence. And as I said, performance art, if you like, but slickly done. And an abject performance by the defence, and the entire nation bored and yawning and concerning itself with other far more pressing and serious things. It is a tragedy that the Senate of the United States, the most important and powerful legislative, deliberative body in the world, has been reduced to this kind of farce.
Yeah, it's complete theater, and that's what worries me, because all of this is a show and something else is going on. We said it in another video, they're up to something. If that means the delegitimizing Trump's base of 75 million people, that may be it. If it means pushing forward with some economic remake, some great reset, that may be it. If it means ramping up troop presence in Syria or going after Iran, that may be it. Maybe it's all three or all four of these things. Maybe there's more to it, but they're definitely acting this out, putting on a play, which is really what they're doing. They are really putting on a play, while a lot of other bad things are happening and people are not noticing, like a lot of troop movements into Syria. I mean, a lot of convoys are moving into Syria, and that's troubling. And of course, we have a video coming out on Iran as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on, not to mention all the censorship and going after Trump's base. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. This was pure acting. And, I watch a lot of Mark Dice, and I like his analysis, and people, who are watching this video may know who he is. And he writes a lot of serious books. And he always, even though his analysis is funny, he uses a lot of comedy, but he does write serious books, well-researched. And he points out how, the FBI, the CIA, the deep state, the Democrats, Hollywood, how they really do work a lot together to create messaging, to create narratives, to create slickly produced movies with a message to demonize certain countries, to, shape the minds of Americans. This trial really reminded me of that type of cooperation, because, like you said, it was like a court. It was like an impeachment trial you would see in a movie. It had nothing based in reality. It was like something that you would have in a Hollywood film with slick videos and people crying and all these things going on. It was really theater.
I completely agree with you. The whole thing was a piece of theatre. Actually, I thought bad theatre and a bad movie, but then, what do I know about that sort of thing? But, I do wonder, you may very well be right. Maybe this is all intended to keep our minds and our attentions away from other more serious things. We're starting to think, we discussed this on our previous programme, that this was partly the agenda behind, the previous impeachment. I mean, I don't know, but certainly there are some very concerning things, for example, about the economic proposals that are coming out of this administration. And we've seen that there are disagreements within the Democratic coalition between over the economic proposals. So it may be intended to paper over that. It may be intended to keep this very unwieldy creature, the Democratic Party and its coalition, together, because we can see that there are growing tensions there. But regardless of what the intention is, the fact remains that the way in which this impeachment or sham impeachment is being conducted is an appalling comment on the United States at this present time. And I have to say, if I was a senator, a United States senator, and remember, many of these people, highly trained lawyers, very experienced lawyers, I would have been embarrassed by the performances I saw. I would have been embarrassed by the Democrats, who, as I said, didn't really argue to the point about anything, but, as I said, put on a exercise which was all emotion, when courts are supposed to avoid emotion, especially so in a trial of a former president, or I don't want to call it, but anyway, that kind of trial. And of course, two defense lawyers who are clearly not up to their job. I would be embarrassed by this sort of thing. I would say to myself, why am I here? Why am I wasting my time with all of this? If I want to see a film, I can go to the movies and watch one there. And if I want to go and listen to bad lawyers making a mess of good cases, well, there's lots of things like that going on up and down in, various little trials and cases up and down the United States. You find lots of hacks who don't know how to put a coherent argument together in every court, and all you need to do is to rock up on one day and sit in the gallery, and you can find that happens there. But what are these people doing in the Senate of the United States? That I simply don't know. And you may be right. Maybe it's intended to keep the Senate preoccupied whilst other things happen, and maybe it's intended to keep us preoccupied whilst other more serious things happen. I very much fear so, because that is the only explanation that makes any sense to me.
All right, so 2 questions, 2 points. There is the worry that if the lawyers continue this way, Trump's legal team, that they may peel off Republicans. But maybe we can look at it from a different angle and say, okay, they did so badly yesterday, they only peeled off 1 Republican. So maybe that's, kind of a good sign. But I would say more to the point that maybe even the Republicans don't really care how this thing is tried. I mean, the Republican senators. I mean, you could put, you could have Michigan, your dog there, running the trial, and I think the Republicans won't care, right? Because they're good at the end of the day, when all of this is said and done. They're going to probably say, if I vote to impeach Trump, like say someone like Lindsey Graham, if I vote to impeach Trump, as much as I want to, because I'm a rhino, I still have to think about my seat and my reelection and the people that vote for me. So I think they're always going to have that in the back of their head. I mean, this is going to be it's not going to be a decision based on facts or the litigation. It's just going to be a decision based on politics and their best interests. So I can't imagine so many Republicans peeling off and voting to impeach Trump, knowing that they're just going to get hammered during the next election cycle. So that's point number 1. And point number 2, real quick, is if you are a lawyer and you really want to amuse the Democrats and go on with this show trial, there's a lot of evidence that you could just hammer home in a matter of an hour and be done with this trial, and drop the mic and just be done. Like Mark Meadows the other day said that he has concrete evidence that Trump offered to have 10,000 National Guard there. You have timeline issues that the New York Times itself has highlighted and the Washington Post. You have evidence that social media companies like Twitter and like Facebook were actually being used to organize stuff and not Parler and all this stuff. You have FBI agents who have now admitted they were there. I mean, you have all kinds of like evidence, whether it's big evidence or small evidence. If you really wanted to like litigate this thing, you could come down with like 10 points and just be like, bam, 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 bam. All right, guys, can we be done with this nonsense? Outside of the constitutionality of free speech and incitement, there's all kinds of other things that you could argue and say, look, the timelines, the offers that Trump made, it just doesn't fit with what you guys are accusing him of. If you wanted to litigate this.
I think I think you're making a possibly important point, which is, of course, that I don't know much about these two lawyers, and it may very well be that they're out of their depth in constitutional law and constitutional arguments. That was certainly the impression I got, but that they are very, very good trial lawyers, and that when it comes to the actual evidence, they will be very much more effective in taking that apart. I mean, lawyers come in many forms. I should say that I'm not particular. When I was practicing and when I was working in the courts, I was not a great advocate. I was absolutely not someone who is good at that kind of knockabout sort of stuff. But I could have argued a constitutional case. I think I could have argued a constitutional case a lot better than these two people did. But on the other hand, it may be that those people are not up to the constitutional arguments, which are difficult and refined and intellectual, but they are very good at demolishing or deconstructing or breaking down, the fact that there are basic fundamental problems with the case itself as it is being presented. And we must not overlook that possibility, and that we will just have to wait and see how things turn out from now on. But I think you are basically right about the politics of this. What I think Republican senators are saying to themselves is, look at what problems Liz Cheney is in Wyoming. Look at what problems other Republicans who have gone out against Trump find themselves in. Do I want to face that? That, I think, is much more important to Republican senators as they decide how to vote than anything that the defense lawyers say. Frankly, the fact that only one senator flipped after this disastrous performance suggests to me that the senators really aren't paying much attention to what is going on in the Senate. I shouldn't call it a court, it's the Senate. In the Senate, that they realise and understand that this is all theatre, and at the end of the day, one mustn't confuse the senators with a jury. One must remember that these people are politicians, and that it's politics that ultimately concern them, and that they want to win their primaries. They don't want to lose their primaries, and for that reason, they will vote to acquit Trump in the knowledge that by doing so, they will remain in favour with their base, and they will prevent the Republican Party from splitting at a time when it must be feeling that, provided things go in a certain ways which look predictable, they have a really good chance of winning back both the House and the Senate in 2022. So I would have thought that was the major priority for the senators, and it's more likely than not, however badly the lawyers do, it won't really matter. But I think there is a possibility that the lawyers might do better, but we will have to wait and see. It may be that they're not people who are really interested in constitutional law, and they're really there to fight the case. We will see.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's, we're going to have to watch it.
We're going to have to
We're going to be some
watch
of the few people that watch it, yeah.
Well, we're going to, because I mean, that's what we're for. That's what our channel does. I mean, we spent all those hours going through the first impeachment, if you remember, in which, by the way, everything we said was proved to be completely correct about every part of it. But we're going to do the same with this impeachment too, because that's why we have set up this channel. That's the service we provide. But I completely understand why tens of millions of Americans are completely switched off from this thing. And there was nothing that happened on the first day which would draw them and persuade them, in my opinion, to take this thing seriously. And they would not be right not to take it seriously, because there is nothing ultimately serious about it.
Yeah, I agree. Your time is much better spent actually going to a movie than watching this theater.
Oh, absolutely. You can see far better. You want to see how real lawyers behave. I'm not making this up. I noticed that lots of people in America talk all the time about Atticus Finch. Was it in the in that famous movie that was made all the way back in the 50s? Well, watch that. He actually does a good job. I can recognise that as a genuine legal performance. This isn't that at all.
All right, we'll leave it there. Alexander Reckers, thank you very much. Guys, go to PayPal, Patreon, Subscribe Star, Bitcoin to help out this channel. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some great merch, maybe a long sleeve t-shirts. Go to Alexander's channel. You'll find the link down below. Go to my channel. You'll find the link down below. And BitChute, Odyssey, and Rumble. Join us there, where you'll find all our videos. Our complete catalog of videos are always on those platforms as well.
Absolutely. And of course, don't forget our shop, our wonderful shop with its great merchandise. And do look us up on our other platforms, which Alex mentioned. And also, remember to subscribe to this channel and to our other channels. And we look forward to seeing you again in our next program.
All right. Take care, everybody.